The medical bay's sterile lights flickered as another tremor shook the diplomatic vessel. I gripped the edge of the examination table, watching Dr. Chen frantically sort through our dwindling blood supply reserves. "Nothing's compatible," she muttered, her voice tight with desperation. "Her physiology is rejecting everything we have." Through the observation window, I could see her, Princess Zarakai of the Velnari Empire. Her orange skin had faded to a sickly pale amber, her normally luminous blonde hair now dull and lifeless against the medical pod. The poison from the assassination attempt was winning. "What about untested samples?" I asked, already rolling up my sleeve. Dr. Chen looked at me sharply. "Ensign Matthews, we don't even know if human blood won't kill her faster. The protein structures alone. She's dying anyway." I moved toward the blood draw station. "Test mine." The doctor hesitated, then nodded curtly. As the needle pierced my vein, I watched the princess's chest rise and fall in shallow, labored breaths. 3 days ago, she'd been the most vibrant person I'd ever seen, commanding the treaty negotiations with grace and unexpected humor, her eyes constantly finding mine across the conference room. "This is remarkable." Dr. Chen stared at her scanner, then at me. "Your blood type, there's something in your plasma markers. It's not a perfect match, but it might stabilize her long enough for the antidote to work." "Then do it." 20 minutes later, I sat beside the princess's pod, my arm connected to hers through a tangle of medical tubes. My blood flowed into her, a ribbon of red against the pale blue of Velnari medical technology. Dr. Chen monitored both our vital signs with nervous precision. "Her color's returning," she whispered, almost afraid to believe it. It was true. The vibrant orange hue began creeping back across Zarakai's skin like dawn breaking over copper dunes. Her breathing steadied, deepened. My head spun with fatigue as they drew more blood than was probably safe, but I didn't complain. Suddenly her eyes opened, those striking violet eyes that had haunted my thoughts since our first meeting. They found mine immediately, confusion giving way to recognition, then something deeper I couldn't name. "You," she breathed, her voice hoarse. "The human from Earth's delegation." The one who laughed at my joke about the translator malfunction. "Marcus," I managed, feeling lightheaded. "Marcus Matthews. Marcus." She said my name like she was tasting something precious. Her hand moved weakly, finding the tubes connecting us. "This is your blood in me? Apparently I'm a universal donor, lucky coincidence." "We don't believe in coincidence." Her fingers trembled as they traced the tube. "Among my people, such an exchange is significant." Before I could ask what she meant, her eyes rolled back. Alarms shrieked. Dr. Chen shoved me aside, calling for emergency protocols. I stumbled backward, vision tunneling as medical staff swarmed the pod. The last thing I saw before passing out was Zarakai's hand, still reaching toward where I'd been sitting. I woke in a recovery room, an IV drip replenishing my fluids. Captain Rodriguez sat in the corner chair, her expression unreadable. "Congratulations, Ensign," she said dryly. "You saved the princess and possibly prevented an interstellar war. You're either a hero or an idiot, perhaps both." "Is she stable? The antidote worked once your blood gave her system time to fight. You've been out for 6 hours." She leaned forward. "In that time, the Velnari delegation has been insistent about seeing you. Their ambassador used a word that the translators keep rendering as bondmate or blood chosen. Want to tell me what that means?" My stomach dropped. "I have no idea." But over the next 2 days, as I recovered, I learned exactly what it meant. The Velnari operated under ancient customs I'd never studied in basic xenocultural training. Blood exchange wasn't just medical. It was sacred, intimate, reserved for family or the deepest of bonds. By accepting my blood, Princess Zarakai had, in her culture's eyes, accepted me. She didn't exactly have a choice, I protested to Ambassador Thelvar, a statuesque Velnari with silver hair. She was unconscious. But you had a choice, the ambassador replied gently. You offered your blood freely, knowing the cost, and now, by our oldest laws, she must respond to your offering. Respond how? She must choose to accept the bond and claim you as her chosen companion, or to refuse it and sever the connection. Both carry consequences. The weight of his words settled over me like lead. What kind of consequences? If she accepts, you become part of her royal bloodline. Not quite consort, not quite nobility, something older. You would be bound to her fate, expected to stand at her side through all trials. Your life would no longer be entirely your own. And if she refuses, R's expression grew somber. The refusal of freely given blood is seen as rejection of the deepest kind. It would be politically acceptable, but personally devastating for both parties. The bond has been formed whether she acknowledges it or not. To deny it is to live with a phantom connection, always aware of what was refused. I spent another day in medical, my thoughts a chaotic swirl. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Zarakai's face during those tense negotiations. Her sharp wit, the way she'd caught me staring and smiled instead of looking away, how she'd specifically requested I be part of Earth's translation team for the more casual dinner discussions. Had I imagined the connection between us? Or had I just tied both our fates into an impossible knot? On the third day after the poisoning, a Velnari guard arrived at my quarters. The princess requests your presence, she said formally. If you are willing, my heart hammered. Of course. They led me not to the medical bay, but to Princess Zarakai's personal chambers aboard the diplomatic ship. The rooms were stunning, all flowing fabrics in sunset colors, crystalline furniture that seemed to grow from the floor, and windows displaying the stars streaming past. She stood by the largest window, wearing formal robes of deep purple that made her orange skin seem to glow. Her blonde hair had been woven into an intricate pattern I didn't recognize. She looked fully recovered, radiantly healthy, and absolutely terrified. Marcus! She turned, and I saw tears tracking down her cheeks. I've kept you waiting. I'm sorry. I needed time to think, to consult with my advisors, my family, to understand what I was feeling versus what tradition demanded. You don't owe me anything, I said quickly. You were dying. What I did, anyone would have done the same. No, her voice was firm. Not anyone. Most humans on your delegation hesitated, worried about contamination risks, political complications, but you simply offered, as if my life mattered more than consequences. She moved closer, her violet eyes searching my face. Do you know what we believe about blood bonds? I've been learning. Then you know I have a choice to make. My advisors have made it clear accepting you would complicate succession laws, create diplomatic tangles, scandalize the conservative court factions. She laughed bitterly. They've prepared 3 different political speeches for me, all explaining why I must gracefully refuse your bond. My chest tightened. I understand. Do you? She was close enough now that I could see the faint luminescence of her skin, a trait I'd read was tied to Velnari emotional states. Do you understand that for 3 days I've felt you, even separated by walls and decks? I know when you sleep, when you wake. I feel the echo of your heartbeat like a second pulse. It's not metaphor, Marcus. The bond is real, whether I acknowledge it or not. I couldn't breathe. Zarakai, they told me I should choose duty, choose my people's expectations, choose the path that makes political sense. She reached out, her hand hovering near my chest, above my heart. But I keep remembering your face when I woke, the relief in your eyes, the way you looked at me like I was precious. Not because I'm a princess, but because I'm me. Her hand finally made contact, pressing flat against my heartbeat. I choose you, she whispered. The formal announcement came 2 hours later, transmitted simultaneously to both Earth's delegation and the Velnari Imperial Court. I stood beside Zarakai as she declared her choice, her hand clasped firmly in mine, feeling like I'd stepped into a fevered dream. Captain Rodriguez's face on the view screen was carefully neutral. Ensign Matthews, you understand this decision requires immediate reassignment. Your role in the diplomatic corps has become complicated. I understand, Captain. What followed was a whirlwind. Earth's government, initially shocked, quickly recognized the unprecedented opportunity. A human directly connected to the Velnari royal family could bridge cultures in ways years of negotiation couldn't. The treaty talks, which had been stalling on territorial disputes, suddenly found new momentum. But the Velnari court was less enthusiastic. "This is madness," declared High Chancellor Kethril, a severe-looking Velnari with ash-gray skin during a vid conference 2 days later. His image filled the comm screen in Zarakai's chambers. "Princess, your father would never approve such a bonding. A human, a species we've known for barely 5 years. Zarakai's spine straightened, and I recognized the commanding presence I'd seen during negotiations. "My father isn't here to approve or disapprove, Chancellor. He sent me to forge peace and understanding. I have done so in the most profound way possible. You've created a succession crisis if you ascend to the throne with this bond mate. What becomes of the royal bloodline? Marcus shares my blood now," she said coolly. "Quite literally, or do you question the validity of our oldest customs?" The Chancellor's expression soured, but he couldn't argue with tradition. The call ended with terse promises to discuss this matter further upon our return to the Velnari homeworld. When the screen went dark, Zarakai's confident facade crumbled. She sank onto a cushioned bench, head in her hands. "They'll never accept you," she whispered. "My younger brother Kelvar has been eyeing the throne for years. This gives him ammunition to claim I've abandoned our ways, become too alien myself." I sat beside her, unsure if I should touch her. We'd barely had time alone since her declaration, every moment filled with official statements, diplomatic briefings, cultural lessons hurriedly taught by patient Velnari attendants. "Do you regret it?" I asked quietly. She looked up sharply. "No, never do you. I gave you blood to save your life, not to trap you in an impossible situation. You didn't trap me." Her hand found mine, fingers interweaving. "Marcus, I've met hundreds of suitors, alliance candidates, political matches. All of them looked at me and saw a throne, a treaty, a path to power. You looked at me and saw someone choking to death. You didn't hesitate. You didn't calculate odds or consequences. You just acted. That sounds more impulsive than romantic." She laughed, the sound like bells. "Among my people, we value decisive action. Hesitation in crisis reveals character more than years of careful planning." Her grip tightened. "When I woke with your blood in my veins, I felt you your fear for me, your relief, your absolute certainty that saving me mattered more than anything. How could I refuse that? Over the following weeks, we traveled to the Velnari homeworld for what was diplomatically termed an introduction to court, but felt more like a trial. Their planet, Velnara Prime, was breathtaking. Twin suns painting copper and gold landscapes, crystalline cities that grew from the earth like massive geodes, air that tasted of minerals and exotic spices. The palace was carved from a single massive crystal formation, its walls refracting light into constant rainbows. Beautiful, cold, and utterly alien. The court gathered for my formal presentation. Hundreds of Velnari nobles in stunning robes, their skin tones ranging from deep orange to pale gold, their hair every shade from white blonde to copper. I wore clothing hastily adapted from human formal wear, feeling like a dark smudge against their vivid colors. Zarakai stood at the dais, resplendent in royal regalia, every inch the princess. I stood 3 steps below her, the traditional position for a newly acknowledged bond mate. This human gave his blood freely, she announced, her voice carrying through the crystalline hall. By our oldest laws, I have accepted his offering and claimed him as chosen companion. Who among you would question the traditions of our ancestors? Silence. Then High Chancellor Kethril stepped forward. I do not question tradition, Princess. I question wisdom. This human knows nothing of our ways, our culture, our responsibilities. How can he stand beside you when you rule? How can he guide you in matters of state? He doesn't need to guide me, Zarakai replied. He needs to ground me, to remind me why we pursue peace instead of conquest, connection instead of isolation. Pretty words, but when the conservative factions demand you produce heirs of pure bloodline, what then? When they whisper that you've weakened the throne by choosing alien over your own kind? I felt Zarakai's hand tremble where she gripped the ceremonial staff. This was the real challenge, not my worthiness, but the political reality of her choice. Before she could respond, I spoke. May I address the court? Every eye turned to me. Zarakai looked surprised but nodded permission. I took a deep breath. I don't pretend to understand your culture fully. I've been studying, learning, but I'm still stumbling over basic customs. You're right that I'm unprepared for whatever role this bond assigns me. I met the Chancellor's gaze. But I understand one thing perfectly. The princess is trying to build a future where Velnari and humans don't just coexist but thrive together. That terrifies some of you. Change always does. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I pressed on. I can't give you pure bloodline heirs. I can't navigate centuries of court politics. What I can give you is proof that your princess practices what she preaches. She doesn't just negotiate peace treaties, she lives them. If that makes me a liability in your eyes, then perhaps you need to examine what you truly value. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, unexpectedly, an elderly Velnari near the front began to hum, a low, resonant sound. Others joined, the hum building into what I'd learned was a sign of approval, of recognition. Not everyone joined. Chancellor Kethril and his allies stood silent, their expressions hard. But enough voices rose that the tension in Zarakai's shoulders eased. The human speaks with unexpected wisdom, said the elderly Velnari who'd started the humming. Perhaps the blood recognizes what the mind questions. The formal ceremony concluded without resolution, neither acceptance nor rejection, but a wary acknowledgement. As the court dispersed, Zarakai pulled me aside into a private corridor, her composure finally cracking. You magnificent fool, she breathed, pulling me into an embrace. Challenging the Chancellor like that could have turned the entire court against us. But it didn't. No, it didn't. She pulled back, studying my face. You're not what I expected when I chose you. What did you expect? Someone who needed me to protect them, guide them through my world, but you keep surprising me standing on your own. Her smile was radiant. I chose well. The assassination attempt came 3 weeks into our stay on Velnara Prime. We'd been walking the palace's crystal gardens, one of the few places Zarakai could relax without constant courtly observation. The twin suns were setting, painting the translucent plants in shades of amber and rose. She was teaching me a Velnari poem about seasonal change, laughing as I butchered the pronunciation. Then I felt it, a wrongness like ice water down my spine. Get down! I tackled her sideways as an energy bolt seared the air where she'd been standing. The crystal tree behind us exploded into glittering shards. Training from Earth's military service kicked in. I dragged Zarakai behind a larger formation as more shots rang out. Palace guards appeared from nowhere, returning fire, but the attackers had chosen their moment well. This garden sector was supposedly private, lightly defended. Stay low, I commanded, my body covering hers. Marcus, you're not armed. Neither are you. Now shut up and let me think. I'd felt them before seeing them. That was the key. The blood bond. I'd been feeling its effects for weeks now, the constant awareness of Zarakai's presence, the echo of her emotions. But in that moment of danger, it had expanded, sharpened. I'd known someone was coming before conscious thought caught up. More guards arrived. The attackers retreated, melting into the crystalline corridors. One guard lay injured, her orange blood staining the white crystal path. Zarakai immediately went to her, pressing her hands against the wound, speaking soothing words. I stood, scanning the gardens, that wrong sensation still prickling my skin. There's another one, still close. Sir, we've cleared the area, a guard began. No, someone's watching. I can feel them. Zarakai looked up sharply. Marcus, the bond, are you sensing presence through it? Before I could answer, a figure emerged from behind a distant formation, Chancellor Kethril himself, unarmed, his hands raised. Hold. He commanded the guards. To me, he said, you truly can sense proximity through the blood bond. Remarkable, I had to see for myself. You set this up. Zarakai was on her feet, fury blazing. You arranged an attack to test him. Not an attack, Highness. A test with stunner weapons and loyal guards playing attackers. The human had no way to know they weren't real threats. He approached slowly, studying me with new interest. But he knew where danger would come from. He felt it before visual confirmation. My anger warred with confusion. You could have gotten us killed proving a point. True bond mates develop this sense, Kethril explained, ignoring my accusation. It's spoken of in our oldest texts, but rarely manifests between Velnari and never with an alien species. Yet here you stand, attuned to the princess's safety before your conscious mind processed the threat. This was unacceptably reckless, Zarakai snapped. Perhaps, but necessary. The Chancellor's expression softened slightly. You force me to evolve, Princess. Your bond with this human challenges everything I thought I understood about our traditions. I needed proof that it was genuine, that the old magic still worked across species. And now you have it. Now I have questions. He gestured to the injured guard who was being tended by medical staff. Real questions, not political maneuvering. If the bond manifests this strongly, what else might be possible? Could humans and Velnari truly blend our societies, or would your union remain an anomaly? Over the following days, something shifted. Kethral's test, dangerous and ethically questionable as it was, had proven something to the skeptics. The blood bond wasn't just symbolic or political. It was tangibly real, granting me abilities no human should possess. I spent hours with Velnari scholars undergoing tests. They discovered I could sense Zarakai's location anywhere in the palace complex. If she was distressed, I felt it as physical discomfort. When she was joyful, warmth suffused my chest. The bond was growing stronger, not weaker, with time. "This is unprecedented," said Scholar Telmara, an elderly Velnari who'd studied bonding traditions for centuries. "Typically, bonds between Velnari stabilize after the initial formation. Yours continues to deepen. It's as if your human neurology is adapting, forming new pathways to accommodate Velnari bonding instincts." "Is that dangerous?" Zarakai asked, her hand finding mine. "Unknown, but remarkable," Telmara smiled. "Perhaps your species are more compatible than we feared. Perhaps this is evolution in real time." The court remained divided, but opposition softened. Even those uncomfortable with a human bond mate couldn't deny the evidence. Zarakai used the momentum to push through treaty amendments, opening more cultural exchange programs, proposing joint research initiatives. Late one night, unable to sleep, I found her on the palace balcony overlooking the capital city. The lights of Velnara Prime spread below like luminescent flowers, beautiful and alien. "Can't sleep either," she asked, not turning. "Too much in my head. 3 months ago, I was a junior diplomat filing reports. Now I gestured helplessly. "Whatever this is, my chosen companion, my bond mate, my connection to your people and theirs to mine." She finally looked at me. "My friend. Possibly more if you wanted." The word more hung between us. We'd been so focused on political and cultural implications that we'd barely explored what the bond meant personally, romantically. "Is that allowed?" I asked. "I mean, we're already bonded by blood. Does that preclude?" "It precludes nothing, complicates everything," she smiled wryly. "The bond connects us spiritually, politically, but whether it includes romantic love, that's our choice. Some bond mates never develop romance. Others," she trailed off, moving closer, "others find the bond was only the beginning." I'd been fighting my growing feelings for weeks, unsure if they were real or just artifact of the blood connection. But looking at her now, brilliant, brave, shouldering impossible pressures while still finding moments to laugh, I knew the truth. "I didn't plan this," I said softly. "Didn't plan to fall for an alien princess while trying to save her life. I didn't plan to choose someone who makes me feel seen, not just as a princess, but as Zarakai." She reached up, her fingers brushing my jaw. "But here we are." The kiss was tentative at first, testing two different species navigating unfamiliar territory. Then the blood bond flared, and suddenly I felt her emotions washing through me. Hope, desire, fear, joy, all tangled together. And she felt mine, her sharp intake of breath telling me she understood the depth of what I felt. "Oh," she whispered against my lips, "that's intense." Understatement. We stood there, foreheads touching, hearts synchronized through the bond as the twin moons of Velnara Prime rose over the crystal city. The future remained uncertain, political challenges, cultural clashes, questions neither of us could answer. But in that moment, none of it mattered. She'd chosen me, I'd chosen her, and the blood that connected us sang with possibilities. 6 months later, I stood in Earth's United Assembly, Zarakai beside me, as we presented the finalized treaty that would reshape human-Velnari relations for generations. My role had evolved from bond mate to active diplomat, bridge between species, living proof that cooperation was possible. The skeptics said it couldn't work, Zarakai told the assembled dignitaries. They said humans and Velnari were too different, that understanding was impossible. Yet here stands Marcus Matthews, carrying my blood in his veins, attuned to my presence through bonds our species shouldn't be able to form. If we can bridge the gap between our very biologies, surely we can bridge the gap between our societies. The applause was thunderous. Not everyone was convinced. Resistance remained on both worlds, but the momentum was undeniable. Joint colonies were being planned. Cultural exchange programs overflowed with applicants. Scientists from both species collaborated on research that benefited everyone. And quietly, privately, Zarakai and I built something unprecedented, a relationship that honored both our traditions while creating something entirely new. "Do you regret it?" she asked that night as we prepared to return to Velnara Prime. "Giving up your simple life for this complexity?" I pulled her close, feeling the bond pulse with warmth between us. "I gave blood to save someone dying." She gave me purpose, partnership, and a future I never imagined. No regrets. Even when the conservative court factions make your life difficult. Even then, besides, I grinned, someone needs to keep you grounded when you get too diplomatic. She laughed, the sound still capable of making my heart skip. "My father contacted me today. He's returning from the outer territories specifically to meet you. The Emperor, right, no pressure. He said anyone brave enough to give blood to his daughter deserves his respect." Her expression softened. "And anyone who makes me this happy deserves his blessing." The future still held challenges, questions about succession, about how our bond would affect future generations, about whether this was the beginning of broader human Velnari integration or remained a beautiful anomaly. But standing there, feeling Zarakai's heartbeat echo against mine through the blood bond, I knew one truth absolutely. I'd given my blood to save an alien princess. She'd chosen me and changed everything. And together we'd prove that love, in whatever form it took, could bridge even the stars themselves.